Hey guys, Beau here, and thanks for joining us on another episode. And I want to go back to the past, and I did this presentation live for a group that I'm involved in, and it was on how to find and fund a franchise for less than $25,000 out of pocket. There's never been a better time, I believe, to look into business ownership. And that's why I am the business ownership coach, and that's why I have this podcast. It's because I want to help you buy a business, whether you want to start a franchise, you want to do a business acquisition, non-franchise, you want to look at a franchise resale, you want to move your business from your rented space, right? You're a CPA and you rent a space, and you want to go buy your building, and you need to understand SBA financing. That is what our channel is all about. Own a Business Today podcast is all about that. Remember, we have a digital magazine launching. It's completely free. You can also get a copy of that once it's launched. But yeah, we're bringing value. We're interviewing franchisors. We're interviewing franchise advisors. We're interviewing vendors in business ownership sector. We're interviewing people that have started businesses from scratch and how they did it. Really provide a lot of value. So on this PowerPoint, we're going to go through how to find and fund a franchise for under $25K utilizing SBA financing. SBA financing is an amazing tool. It can really do a lot for you. And after this video, I hope you understand that it doesn't take much out of pocket. There's a business out there for you, and we can help you navigate financing and the finding of the franchise to buy. It's a process, but I can tell you this, you're gonna learn a lot by looking at different business models, how they run, how the marketing works. How does the margins on these things look? What do I do when I own this business? What are my roles when I own this business? So you're going to see all that and more in this episode and this deep dive here, and it's a PowerPoint presentation. So I hope you enjoy. Go back and please subscribe if you're not a subscriber of this channel. And I enjoy putting out content for you. And if you have questions, feel free to go to bookwithbeau.com, and you can book a discovery call with me, whether it's SBA or you want to look into business ownership or some kind of commercial loan. Go to bookwithbeau.com. It's BEAU, bookwithbeau.com. Schedule a call. Let's get on Zoom. Let's meet for a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and really dive in and see how we can put together a plan so you can own a business or expand your business. And anyways, without further ado, let's get started. All right. So key benefits of franchising: proven business model, brand recognition, sales and marketing, training and support, collective purchasing power, decreased risk compared to independent startups, easier to finance using SBA. All right, so some key benefits right there. One is a non-franchise startup versus a franchise startup, much easier to get higher leverage. I have one bank I work with that does a lot of franchise, and they used to just do small ticket franchises where it's usually up to $150,000 in total project costs. Well, they just moved up. They can do loan amounts up to $350,000. They'll do 90% loan to cost, assuming that everything checks out, of course. But they do a ton of franchises. So when I originally did this PowerPoint, it was how to find and fund with $25,000 out of pocket. A lot of these non-medical home service type franchise models can range anywhere from 100 to 250. So as you can see, if you need a 10% equity injection, there you go. $100,000. We closed one recently. Equity injection was $11,500, which was a painting franchise startup. So there's a ton of business models that you can fit into this and really get started with a little bit out of pocket. And that's why I love this business. The research I did, now granted, I never trust the statistics, but what I found from some reputable sources, 92% of franchises survive first year, as opposed to 80% of independent businesses for that same 1 year. And then only 50% of non-franchise businesses are still operating after 5 years. Contrast that with franchise businesses that 85% are still going strong after 5 years. Franchise businesses sell at 1.5 times the price of a non-franchise business as far as resale. And I need to put in here where I grabbed the statistics, but I heard it from another franchise consultant, and then I researched through the university that did the study. So I do have that, and I should reference that in this. But I always take statistics for a grain of salt, but I believe this one was actually pretty reputable. Trends in franchising. People are looking for recession-resilient businesses. They're in super high demand. HVAC, plumbing companies, drain companies, flooring companies, painting companies, window cleaning companies, to name a few. We're seeing a huge trend in that right now. Real estate investors are becoming more active in buying franchises. Additionally, who are the other buyers? There's the W-2 tech workers, there's doctors, lawyers that are looking to diversify their streams of cash flow. Businesses and franchises are great, right? Because if we increase revenue, and we're increasing the value of that per se business, as long as we don't crush the expenses at the same time. Additional benefits of owning a business: greater tax advantages, right? If you're W-2, you're missing out on a lot of tax advantages of being a small business owner. When we do the Business Ownership Summit, you can go to businessownershipsummit.com, get your ticket. It's a free event. I'm hoping to bring a really, really great CPA on to talk about Section 179, to talk about bonus depreciation, and how you might be able to get some tax benefits from your W-2 job from starting a small business. I highly recommend, if you're a high-paid W-2 employee, you look into whether it's owning a business or other tax strategies, because it just kills me when people make a bunch of money and they don't have any tax write-offs. So I would highly recommend you get with a tax strategist. Additionally, you're building a business, you're creating equity in that business for a possible exit down the road. So the higher the cash flow, the more net operating income, the greater equity you create in this business. I think it's more and more evident now that we're seeing franchising as an investment class. I didn't hear about this before. You're hearing more discussions in this. You're seeing investment groups buy multiple different franchise concepts and then have operators, and then having one kind of hold co that holds those different operating companies, whether they're all in the home service industry or not. You're seeing that it's more of a prevalent opportunity that I see happening more and more lately. So when we get into franchise models, there's non-passive or active ownership, owner-occupied, owner-operator businesses. There's different types of passive businesses. There's fully passive, where the franchise, the ZOR, runs the business completely, and they usually have some sort of management fee caked in there. There's semi-passive or executive model, where you hire the general manager. And then there's hybrid models you see, like we talked about earlier, where it's more of an investor. There might be a couple investors. It could be a small kind of investment fund that does this together. They do some sort of syndication, and then they run it with no debt, as opposed to Joe going and getting an SBA loan. So there's a lot of different models. People are becoming very creative. There's one company out there that does where you can invest into their I believe it's a syndication. You can own shares, and they buy into multiple franchise concepts. So there's a lot of changes, and with crowdfunding and all these platforms now. So it'll be interesting to see how that propels the franchise world. How to select a franchise that is best for you. With over 4,000 franchises, and there you go. I don't know how many franchises exactly. Somebody said 3,000. A lot of people say 4,000. Let's say it's greater than 3,000 franchise concepts out there right now. So we use, as franchise brokers, or I call myself a business ownership coach, we usually have our candidates start with a Zoracle profile. The Zoracle profile is like a disc profile, but geared for business ownership. Takes you about 10 minutes to complete. It's a great tool to help, from a scientific level, help us match and find some brands to show you. We also, a lot of the franchisors, they use this to see in their systems that own franchises right now, what are the personality traits and the results? How do they correspond from the Zoracle? So they can see what type of people do the best with their franchise concept. So it's a very, very good tool. We like to start there. Obviously, other things come into play: your capital, your time, your lifestyle requirements. That all becomes a big piece of doing the franchise matching. Your fundability, as I said, cash on hand. What do you have? Do you have retirement vehicles that could be rolled over using such as a Rob's rollover plan? Do you have equity in real estate where you can put lines of credit on? All these things play into a part of figuring out what model makes the most sense. What you buy today doesn't mean it's your end all be all business. You might own 15 or 20 businesses over your lifetime, or this business is very scalable. Most of these franchise concepts are scalable, and most of them don't require experience in that particular segment. For example, we have HVAC companies we work with where you don't need experience in HVAC. They have a system and process you follow, and you can be extremely successful without having an HVAC background. Why a franchise consultant is your best partner? Well, look, you can go on biz buy sell yourself. You can do all this research. You can frustrate yourself, or you can use a system and a process and somebody who has expertise in matching and figuring out and uncovering what opportunities might be the best for you. You might be thinking, I want this Wetzel Pretzel franchise. That might not be the best option for you. There may be a service-based business that you never thought about, this HVAC company, this window cleaning company. It may not be sexy, but it might be a great match for you. A franchise consultant, basically, they have inventory, right? They have an internet system where they have information on all of these different franchise concepts. Who's a good fit? Who's not a good fit? How many units they have? Based on the conversation they have from you, your Zoracle profile, your capital, your lifestyle requirements, where you live, is there available territory? They start the matching process from there. It's actually a dynamic process because there's so many variables to figure out. And there's no like one way is the best way, but I always tell people this: look, at the end of the day, your franchise consultant's not typically charging a fee. We don't charge fees. We're paid a success fee if we find you a business. The franchisor has a marketing budget that they pay a referral fee for that. So our goal is to aid and help you uncover business models that might make the most sense. A lot of people that come to me, they're frustrated with their job, might be doing very well, but they want something different, or they want to build additional revenue streams. They want tax advantages. There's many reasons why. Some people just, hey, I'm ready to retire from my, W-2 job I spent the last 20 years doing, and I want something new and exciting. I don't know what yet. Some of them are more investor cap on. And some of them are like, look, I want to keep my W-2 job, but I know I work from home. I got 20, 30 hours a week that I can put into this business. Eventually I'll build it up and maybe I can replace my job, or maybe I love my job and I just want to build something else, more cash flow, so I can buy that one rental every year to build my net worth and my passive income. So typically what happens usually is somebody would call me, they're interested in maybe a business acquisition and they haven't thought about a franchise. So I always plant the seed. Have you thought about a franchise? Because people get extremely frustrated trying to find a business, right? You go to biz buy sell, and those are usually, businesses that nobody really, they've been picked through and they're not the most ideal. So really, most people buying businesses are finding deals through broker connections or off market type of relationships. The other thing is you're paying a multiple of earnings rather, to buy that existing business. You don't oftentimes don't know what you don't know, even doing all your due diligence. So sometimes starting a franchise startup is a lot easier to start, easier to find, and you're starting with a fresh slate. So the process really is find a consultant. In my mind, do I want to own a business? If that intrigues you, even if you're not 100% committed at that time, talk to one of us, talk to a franchise broker consultant. Start going through the process. Follow their process, because they have processes that they know that you could ultimately be successful. At the end of the day, I know for a fact that if you go through the process, even if you're like, I decided I don't want to buy a business, you're going to learn a lot about business in general. You're going to learn a lot about the different business models out there. And I would highly recommend, if you're feeling that burnout, if you're just looking for something, looking for a new calling, I would definitely book a call. You can go to bookwithbeau.com happy to discuss with you. So the process of the franchise discovery. So typically what happens is initial call, Zoracle profile. The next time you meet, we go over sectors and possible business models, what you do in that business model. Next call is presentation of 5 to 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, franchise ideas for you. From there, you unpack those. You go through, is there any ones that you love or don't like? Ones that you do like. Typically, the next step is to move forward and actually get a deep dive on that brand. So we line you up with that franchisor. They usually spend an hour with you really unpacking what you do and how the business operates and the potential of the business, marketing, all that stuff. From there, if you're interested, they usually have their own kind of process to take you through. Validation is when you're going to call their franchisees in the system. You're going to ask them questions, learn more. There's a discovery process. So each of these ZORs that we call them ZORs, that we work with, has a different discovery process. Most of them are similar, but that's really what happens. So in the front end, the franchise consultant you work with, their skill set in the beginning is crucial to identify opportunities that might be a good fit for your wants, lifestyle, and capital availability of time and all that stuff. And then as you're going through, you now found one that you want to pursue. You start going down the due diligence process. Typically, the franchise broker consultant would be meeting with you for 20 minutes a week, just kind of progressing, because it's little baby steps. Little discovery day is the last step. But that's where you go through and you meet the corporate. You usually fly in for the discovery day. That's like after you've done all of your due diligence, and that's where they're going to meet you face to face and either say, hey, you're not a good fit, or award you the franchise. Once you're awarded the franchise, you're going to finalize your financing. You may have a franchise attorney that will review your franchise agreement, go through the FDD with you. We always recommend you review everything. By this time, you've already done a lot of calls with other franchisees in the system. You've already put together if you're going to SBA financing, you already put together your projections. And I always tell people the projections are so important. The projections are so important because that's a discovery process in its own. Let's say it's a service-based business, okay, or painting company. What's the average ticket price? Can you start with one truck? How many technicians do you need? What are the recurring expenses? How many jobs per day? Average ticket price, right? And so that's going to help you build out your projections. And I can walk you through this, and a lot of people are afraid of projections, but it's actually the best part because you can really think through and understand how this business really works. It's the closest thing, I believe. And then once you get in, you go, okay, are my projections accurate? And you've called other franchisees and you've asked really these types of questions, because on the FDD, the franchise disclosure document, you're only going to get a little bit of information. You really, really got to do your homework, understand the model, and then, of course, understanding the training and the marketing support that's going to be provided from the franchisor. So obviously, there's a lot of ways to fund these franchises. You can use your personal savings, friends and family, partnering with another entrepreneur, seller financing, SBA, Rob's rollover. You can use Rob's for your equity injection for your SBA loan, equity from real estate loan. You can definitely set up a call. I can walk you through some options based on our initial 10 minutes of kind of discovery about what you have available and what options might be available to you. But essentially, SBA financing can finance up to 90% of total costs. That's franchise fee, startup costs, that truck you need, that software, that lease you need to put the money down, the improvements you need to do to the building for build out the furnishings and the camps and whatever you need to do. That becomes your total project cost. You can borrow up to 90%. Not all banks are created equal. We have very aggressive banks that will do 90% loan to cost, but other banks, for example, will only do 70 to 80% on a franchise startup. So they are all different. I do have a bank that will do 70% of total startup costs, but they'll also give you up to $100,000 of additional line of credit on top of the working capital they built in that SBA loan. So I'll walk you through all this. Not a problem. I'm just kind of getting your juices flowing. So here's an example of 25K out of pocket. This was an example, some kind of service-based business with a truck. Their total costs are $178,600. And so the SBA loan, if you got 90% financing, you would need an equity injection of around $17,660. If the bank would do 85%, $26,490, and if they do 80%, $35,320. So as you can see, you can finance a lot. You can get into this business, and this business here, this example, we have $50,000 of working capital in the loan. So we're not going to leave you naked. We're going to try to over capitalize you, because the startup is the most important thing, right? We got to have the money. We don't want to be stressing about paying bills as we're trying to launch this business, getting the marketing going. We want to launch and know we can have a few months to endure those startup costs, essentially. Tips to improve your chances of getting SBA approval for franchise financing: build a strong business plan with projections, showcase market research and demand for the franchise in your area, good personal credit and financial history. The loan amounts over $500,000. SBA guidelines require that the bank or credit union or lender looks for additional collateral. So if the loan amount is over $500,000, under it, they don't. It's not a requirement. Now, it doesn't mean a bank's not going to try to slip it in, because banks all overlay the guidelines or the SOP of the SBA. So that's why it's like not all banks are created equal. I'll say that over and over again. You can take the deal to one bank, they'll do 70%. The other bank will do 90% loan to cost. It varies time and time again. Same thing. I had a non-franchise startup laundromat. It took me 5-6 conversations to find the right bank, because they weren't interested in startup laundromats, non-franchise. So banks all have different appetites, specific to SBA, specific to any kind of business or commercial loan request. And part of what my superpowers are is, one, the relationships with the bankers. Two, I'm also a franchise advisor, a business ownership coach. So I pull that together, and I feel like I can really help the majority of people out there figure this out. I have a lot of connections, not only in entity setting up, CPAs, attorneys. I also have relationships with companies that go in and help reduce expenses once your business is up and running. So I feel my consulting services are very valuable. And also, if you enjoy the content, you can already see I'm passionate about this industry, and I want to help you. So you can always go to bookwithbeau.com, schedule a call, whether it's over SBA financing or, hey, I need some direction. I'm looking for a business, but I have no idea. Even if you want to start one from scratch, I can help you on the financing. You want to buy an existing business, I can help you there. We have partners that we do franchise resales as well if you want to buy an existing business. So I want to be a resource for you. So next steps, you can go to franprofile.com and you can complete the Zoracle. And after you do that, just book a call with me. And you'll also get a copy of the Zoracle as soon as you take it. There's no obligation. You can take it and never schedule a call with me. That's fine. But if you're curious about it, it takes you about 10 minutes. And it'll give you some insightful information.
Welcome to the Own a Business Today podcast with your host, Beau Eckstein, leading the way. Join us as we dive into the exciting world of entrepreneurship. Visit us at ownabusinesstoday.com.